and my cousin unfortunately died very unexpectedly in 2009. And it was at her funeral in Chicago that Tara and I connected. And I have been a volunteer with Free Minds ever since, and it is just thrilling to me that Free Minds, the whole group, has been able to come here tonight, today and tomorrow. So we always like to thank Kathleen for bringing us together. So thank you, Kathleen. And other thank you. This event has been funded by a diversity initiatives grant. So we need to thank the university for that funding. Our co-sponsors, we have the Office of Multicultural Affairs and Paul Porter, and Paul is lurking somewhere. Where's Paul? Oh, he's outside. Paul Porter, hand, you all probably know Paul. This event would not be happening without all of Paul's efforts. It is also being co-sponsored by the Criminal Justice Department and Department of English and Theater, so thank you to them. And also my department, which is CTLE. Thank you. And let's see, I want to thank several faculty members who have really done a fabulous job of getting the word out. Professor Rebecca Beal, who I know is here somewhere, Robert Class, is Father Rick Malloy here? Father Rick might be here, maybe later. Michael Jenkins. Michael Jenkins is alive. They did a fabulous job of getting the word out. And I especially, there are a couple of key people that really make Free Minds feasible. One is Tara's co-founder, Kelly, who she will perhaps mention later. And on the handout, everyone should have gotten a handout. We can make more if all of you didn't get it. One is called The First Free Mind, the original Free Mind, and it's a story about Glenn, that one. And hopefully you've had a chance to read that. It was really his writing, which Kelly had made, to sort of spark the idea for Free Minds. And there's also an evaluation form that hopefully you can fill out for us. But the other key component of Free Minds is really the Free Minds members, because without their courage, Free Minds wouldn't exist. So we will be clapping for our Free Minds members many times tonight, but let's hear it for them now. Co-founder and executive director of the Free Minds Book Club and Writing Workshop. Tara is probably just one of the most generous and dedicated people I know, and she is a real leader. In case anyone had any doubts about her leadership ability, I will show you this. This is from 1981, Archbishop John Carroll High School for Girls in Radnor, Pennsylvania, when Tara, who's there, you can tell which one is Tara, she had just been elected as president of the student council of the senior class. And so, Tara! Oh my God. Let's get to Tara.
Oh my God, she's going back up. Can we switch that screen there? Oh my God, they're going to use that against me forever. Oh my God, that's so funny. Anyway, I am ecstatic to be here. We are ecstatic to be here. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about how the night's going to go. But first of all, I'm just going to say that you are all members, a part of the most historic thing. This is the first time Free Minds has ever left the DC area. It's our first road trip. And forever in our hearts will be Scranton University. It wasn't for Amazing Mary. Somebody needs to dig up a picture of her from high school on your phones right now and get that. And Mary just made it all happen, and we cannot thank her enough. And so basically, what we want you guys to do is some work giving feedback to our members in federal prison. And then we're going to do a question and answer session. So on your desk, on your little things, there should be a sticky note. If you don't have it, write it on a gum wrapper, write it on anything. And our amazing program director, Shauna, is going to go around and collect them. So here is your chance to ask our Free Minds members anything you want. You can be totally anonymous, obviously. And they love answering questions. So we're going to do, they're going to talk a little bit about their lives, then we're going to do questions, and then we'll do some poetry feedback. So it's going to be really fun. First, what do you guys, Sherman asked me, what are you guys called? What's your mascot, or what's our?
Oh, Iggy the Royal Wolf.
Loyal
Is
Wolf.
it Royal? Loyal. Loyal.
Royal Wolves. The Passive Wolves, nice, we like it, Pack of Wolves. We're gonna have to take that, that's really good. I'm very, wolves in a good way, like strong and fearless. So, we are gonna take Pack of Wolves into, the DC jail. We're gonna show you a video. It's a little bit outdated, but you'll see Kelly, our co-founder, who, Mary was telling about. We were television news producers, and she got a letter from Glenn McGinnis, who's on the sheet you saw, who was a prisoner on death row in Texas, basically saying, please help me stay alive. And there are so many young men of color on death row, and we need somebody in the news to do something about it. So Kelly and I worked together, and she did the documentary, and then we tried to save his life, save his execution, and it was completely unsuccessful. So he was executed in 2000, and then, but he is alive in here, live with us in the room with his spirit, because he created Free Minds. He loved books, he loved writing, and that's how it all began. So you'll see us in the jail. Every week, Keela, our amazing book club coordinator, reentry manager, and Kelly, a magical thing happens. Young men who never read a book cover to cover, never wrote a poem, thought their only option in life was either death or prison, spring to life and travel through new worlds through books and writing. And it's an amazing, beautiful thing that happens. And then now we get to share it with all of you, so we're one big community. So we'll play the video and then we'll talk. You know how to turn the light? It was like the movie effect.
Tonight, Federal arrest, first of all, teens gave statements to police with also parents present. He's now being held without bond.
3 of 4 teenagers now indicted.
His crews going to the scene.
It was the only life they knew.
I just used to run the streets. That was my job.
Jose and William were teenagers charged with crimes in Washington, D.C. As juveniles treated as adults, they ended up here at the D.C. jail.
I just decided to hang around with the wrong crowd and find coyotes in there.
Behind bars, with nowhere to run, isolation and loneliness caught up with them too.
I didn't have any type of hope of ever going home.
Little did they know, a second chance would come along. A chance for them to make things right again.
My name is Tara Liebert. I am the co-founder and deputy director of the Free Minds Book Club and Writing Workshop.
I'm Kelly Taylor, and I'm executive director of Free Minds.
I was incarcerated, sitting in jail cell, contemplating what I wanted to do myself, what I wanted to be, and all of a sudden, Free Minds came into my life and helped me out.
What you guys think? Off the top, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Free Minds, a book club that introduces reading and creative writing to young inmates.
We're reaching these kids at a really critical point in their lives. These kids are coming home. It might be 2 years, it might be 4 years, but they are coming home, and we need to consider, how do we want them coming back?
At first, it wasn't easy to convince William and Jose to join.
I was like, Free Minds, book club, I don't want to read no book.
But Free Minds never gave up.
I was following Glenn. I realized that if I really was tough.
Eventually, for William and Jose, the books led them to a new world, a world of possibilities, a place they never dreamt of. And sometimes to a world that was very familiar.
One of them that I related a lot to was called My Bloody Life. It was about this young guy inspired that he's got himself caught up in a lot of things. He involved himself with gangs, and then he got incarcerated, and then he finally saw the light, and he decided to change. It was very inspiring.
Soon, they also discovered the power of writing their own poetry.
When you read a book, it's like poetry, it opens up a brand new side of it, the side you never knew that you had in it.
It made me stop to think that I really do care, that I really do want to change. If I didn't put that on paper again, one thing I would have realized is
When it was time to go home, time to enter the outside world once again, Free Minds was there.
I never thought that I had people, it was people out here that were careful, like Free Minds, Kelly, Tom, they kept in touch with me every month on a regular basis.
They helped these young men find training and build a path to their future.
I don't know, I've never built anything before, and once, you actually got into doing the boats and building them and actually starting them from scratch, you actually finish them, I got a sense of pride, like, yeah, I built that boat. Congratulations.
Kelly and I knew they could do it, but they didn't know they could do it, and now they know they can. I'm so excited!
Now that world of possibility they'd only read about is suddenly becoming a reality. William and Jose now have jobs working with a local construction company. They opened up their lives all because these two opened a book.
Basically, it changed my life.
It gave me hope. It kind of gave me a place, to still have dreams and faith that, things were going to be okay.
Now others are following in their steps.
It hurts to see myself in jail.
Reading and writing their own ticket to freedom.
I go to sleep each and every night. I meet myself in the morning by the blinding of the light.
But know the poem most of all is the voice that told me right from wrong.
Dear Mama, you brought me from a boy to a man. I stood up for myself and I never ever ran.
So that gives you just a little idea of inside the jail. Might be a little hard to read, but now you get the best treat is that those young men come home and they become poet ambassadors, and they represent the members who are still incarcerated. And tonight you're in for an amazing treat because these are our senior stars. And I'm going to do a quick intro. This is Sherman Justice. He's our reentry coach and partnership liaison. He also works at the National Coalition for Black Civic Participation. He's an amazing role model. Next to him is Eddie Christ. Eddie is an amazing artist, singer. He wants to go to school to make positive video games from school. And he is a facilitator at New Beginnings, which is a juvenile detention center. He goes every week to teach poetry. Next to him is, who's next to him? Why are you guys separate? Who's, oh please. Who's down? Where is the chair? Who is that? I'm too many chairs up, oh my God. Okay, this is for our Free Minds member who's still incarcerated, who knows we are all here tonight and is with us. Down, Charlotte. Come on, he goes with Eddie every week to the juvenile detention center, the kids that are in the juvenile system. Now, all of our members are in the adult system, so they all have felonies on their records, and it's extremely hard when you come home to find housing, to find a job, to go back into school. But they go back for the kids in the juvenile center. That's amazing, Charlie. He is a father, and he's Mr. Dad with his wonderful baby. And I say, you would never believe, on the unit, never in a million years would I say Charlie is the sweetest little Charlie. And I mean, literally, he'll tell you, it took 8 months to get him to come to the book club, and now he's the biggest softie. Don't let him try it. It's a comedy show. Okay, next to Charlie is amazing Keela Hale. She is our, as I say, our book club coordinator and our reentry manager. She helps all our members when they come home, find jobs, get into school. And her own son is a Free Minds member. Jermaine, he is incarcerated, and she'll share that story. So not only does she fight every day for him against the justice system, but she fights for all the young men. And she's a pretty amazing woman. Next to her is Anthony Pleasant, who is he's one of our original members. I noticed that she's 16, he's now 28. We've been in existence for so many years. He was 16, he was so sweet and cute. And now he's such a just so amazing grown man. He works at the Humane Society, he loves animals. He's going to school for customer service. He does a support group, which I forgot, with Charlie at a local middle school for kids that are on the way out of being suspended, and he keeps them in, and he's a pretty incredible person. Next to him is Gary Durant. Gary, he'll share his story, amazing athlete. He works in, he plays for semi-pro football. He is a supervisor at a dog daycare as well, and is going to go back to school. And pretty much what you are looking right in front of you are young men that have beaten the odds. You can go home and say, I met 6 people that probably, statistically, I should have never met, because young men that come home from adult prison, what do you think the recidivism rate, meaning that they reoffend within a year and go back, is? Anyone want to throw out a percentage that you think it is?
70?
70? Oh, he's good. Between 70 and 90%. He's scoring poop here. Very nice. So, he did, no, he's good. Which reminds me, I wanted to find out in the room. Can you raise your hand if you are in the Criminal Justice Club? If you guys can raise your hand. Oh, nice. Very good. Can you raise your hand if you're in a poetry class or a poet yourself? Nice. Can you raise your hand if you like to read poetry or, write it yourself? Nice. Raise your hand if you've ever had a hard time in life and you found a book that you read that got you through it. Nice. That was a trick question.
Raise your hand.
And then everyone raise your hand. Raise your hand if you are a free mind, even though your body, you might be somewhere where you don't want to be, but is your mind free? Raise your hand. Hello, I ran you. Free minds. That's what we call free minds. Okay, I am going to now pass it off. So thank you all for coming. Like I say, now we got a lot to live up to. Our first road trip, we packed the house. We're going to really, this is so exciting. So I'm going to pass it off to amazing Sherman.
I'm not that amazing. But I want y'all to hear this poem. It's called, they call me 299359. Orange jumpsuit, shower shoes, and an armband. Guilty by appearance and judged by my race. Guilty until innocent, in the words of the DA. Lost in a cold dream called prison. 4 sharp corners, eggshell paint, dusty gray floors, no lights and a filthy toilet, no tears, just my pen in action. They call me 299359. Correctional officers view me as a savage. I push my pen so that I remain happy. Mama and daddy, these are unspoken words from your baby's diary. My orange jumpsuit and number are only a book cover, so please don't judge me. My words are as pure as gold. Not aware of the success these lines hold, I operate this pen to fight the war mentality. So please understand me. They call me 299359. Orange jumpsuit, shower shoes, and an armband. read that poem because I remember when I first got, like, touched the criminal justice system, and I remember when I was young and how I got involved with crime was, I was 14 and I was going to school and I wanted to have like the nice shoes, you know, dressed like nice, but my mom, she had 4 boys and she really couldn't afford to take care of us free. So I was like the bum kid in school with, you know what I mean, the hair that needed to be cut, with shoes with holes in them and stuff like that. And I got tired of being talked about, so I came home and my mom was like, well, if you get these good grades, I'll get you the Jordans that you want, son. So I was like, cool. I came back with a 3.8 grade point average. So she's like, well, son, I can't get you these shoes. I want you to do me a favor. So I was like, what are you talking about? I'm trying to talk about these shoes, Mom. I ain't trying to do that. What favor are you talking about? So she sat me down in the kitchen. She had a pencil and paper and she said, write down how much I make. So I wrote down how much she made. I'm like, where the hell is she where's she going with this? So I wrote down, then she asked me, write down how much all the bills was, what they accumulate to. So I wrote that down. I did the math and it came up negative. So then I understood, like, well, I could hang with the people around the corner that's doing things by themselves, stealing, robbing people, selling drugs, selling weed, like anything that I could do to get some money, I started doing. So I started hanging with the wrong crowd. Going away from all my God-given talents, I really didn't think I was smart. I didn't think I was really nobody. I know if I really want something, I'm gonna do what I gotta do to get it. So that was in Columbus, Ohio, y'all. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I moved to DC 2 years ago. I served 5 years in prison in Columbus, Ohio. 5 years out of my life gone that I can't get back. But when I came home, I had probation for 3 years. They let me off 2 years early and they let me move to DC. That's where I met Free Minds. And I was kind of sitting like how y'all sitting, and they did this little preview and I'm like, wow. I came to this lady right here and asked her, how can I volunteer with Free Minds? She said, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. I ran down a little bit about myself and she said, well, you could come volunteer and share your story. I said, no, I don't want to talk to nobody in front of no people. I'll help do anything else, but I don't want to talk to nobody. She said, no, you got a good voice, Sherman. You got to speak. And I love your last name, Justice. And I'm like, yeah, they ain't giving me no justice in 5 years. But anyway, though, I volunteered and I encourage volunteering. All of us volunteer all the time. And it led me to be the outreach coordinator for Free Minds. And also working with the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation, where I go to 12 different states in the U.S. and I got coordinators in each state and I keep up with them and do voter engagement work. So like I'm like doing like almost my dream job. But that's all I'm gonna say about me.
So I figured what we could do, oh yeah.
You've got to hold the microphone up real close because the part
Super close?
back is very
Okay.
Okay,
I
man.
feel like it's a little distorted, no?
No, not at all.
Good man, Mary's so good. I wanted to, before we got to you, Eddie, I wanted to, this is our literary journal, which is a collection of poems. Some of you guys have it, I think, already from your classes. We're writing a new one, and we're putting it together. But I wanted to see if anyone could volunteer to read a stanza of a poem. If you raise your hand, Shauna and some of these guys will pass out the book so you can follow us along. It's called My World. So if you guys, the brave ones, want to raise your hand. I need probably like 15 people. So basically, yeah, it's pretty, so it's going to be page, so it's going to be on page 9, and the reason we were reading this is because he's an amazing poem, but also because he's Mary's pen pal. His name is Jonas, and he has many years, I think 37 years, and he was extremely shut down, extremely violent, extremely like, this is it, this is my life, and I'm just going to go hard at it. And he lived in cars when he was younger. His mother was addicted, his father was gone, and he just has completely transformed into this amazing person. So we always try to read poems for everyone. So it's called My World, and I come from on page 9. So Whoever wants to, if you guys want to stand up, all the good volunteers. And we'll just start from the, here are all volunteers, you don't stand up, boy, really, you're putting me on the thing. So we'll start here and read the first stanza, and then the next, and then the next. We'll go, yeah, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. How many stanzas are there? I think there's 7, 8, 9th, 10th, 11th. And you guys, if you don't get all the way through, we got plenty of poems to do. Okay, so you can start.
My World by Jonah. I was born into a world. I was born into a world where the only language men understand is violence. You have to be trained to go at the drop of a hat. Gun, knife, a bat, or hand-to-hand combat. You never know. You just have to be ready to work with no hesitation.
A world where your reputation is everything. It can make or break you. A world where it's best to simply say, stay in your lane. Play your role. Because when you try to step outside of yourself, it's only a matter of time before people figure out that you don't belong there.
And in a world I was born into, exposure can be a matter of life or death. I was born into a world where there's no such thing as me. Either you're strong or you're weak, predator or prey. Any chance of finding a gray area is slim to none.
A world where manhood is defined by how many girls you can have sex with, how much money you have, and whether your gun goes off or not.
A world where extortions, armed robberies, and drug dealings are part of everyday life from sunup to sundown. A world where homicide is likely to be your cause of death. I was born into a world where most people don't know how to cope with the pain of their struggle and try to numb it with drugs and alcohol.
A world full of so much potential, but the people have endured centuries of brainwashing that taught them to hate themselves. The young man doesn't value his own life much at all, so he surely won't think twice about taking yours. The young woman will sell her body to you for a dime rock, a dollar, or an anvil.
A world where we're conditioned from early on to believe that somehow being educated and well-spoken is lame and uncool. A world where the gentleman generally doesn't exist because we've been terribly misinformed as to how we're supposed to treat women. I was born into a world where most people never escape, and blessed are the few that do.
I was born into a world that is not as glamorous as the media would have you believe. It's an everyday struggle to simply survive. I just wish all of my brothers and sisters in the struggle the best.
I would love to see my world rise above the current state of mind, back into our original consciousness. I've highlighted the problems, but I choose to be a part of the solution. I will start by being the change I would like to see in the world. The more I learn, the more I grow, the more I will rise and shine and be a source of light for others.
Nice. So good. That was beautiful. And I'm gonna, our wonderful volunteer, don't worry, I'll be mad at you later. Thank you guys so much. I wanted to do that before I introduced Eddie, because Jonas's words, just by you guys giving the gift of verbalizing them, it's an amazing thing of validation and empowerment. And he will know. We will tell him what's happening, and he loves it. I know Mary will too. So Eddie came from, all these guys came from a world similar to that. And I wanted Eddie to ask you a question, read the poem, and then how your own circumstances with your family and your mom and your dad led you to the streets.
Hi everybody, my name is Tattoos. The name of my poem is called, well it's not my, the name of the poem is called Can You Explain to Me Why? Can you explain to me why life is so hard? And explain why Slim is a changed man but can't get no job. Please explain why you can have fun one day and die the next. Like, can you explain to me why drugs are all over the town? And explain why we come to the jail and get beat down. Can you explain to me why a girl was promised college, but she got slain? Explain why they won't put more crops on the street. They won't put more cops on the street so the world can change. Can you explain why little girls have sex for money? Explain why Slim is laughing, but this is life, and I don't find nothing funny. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and how I came to Freeland. First, before I explain my life story, I like to say I was wrongfully in prison. How many people know that made raise your hand? I came to Freeland in 2009. I was 17 years old. I was incarcerated for first-degree murder, second-degree murder, 2 attempt murders, assault with a deadly weapon, and carrying a pistol without a license. I fought 2 trials. I was found not guilty, and now I'm home today to tell you my life story. I never had my mother in my life. My mother was addicted to drugs. I went to a foster home when I was 2.5 years old, and I'm still in the foster home right now. I did get adopted, and now I'm 22 years old. I never had my father in my life, so I had to grow up to be a man. When I was incarcerated, my mother died on my real mother. October 20th of 2012. I was facing 99 years. And I think I'm stronger than I ever been in my life. I'm gonna tell you how I came to Freeland. I was on the juvenile block, I was 17. And Turner came to me one day and she was like, man, we having this book club and we want you to come and write a poem and do this and do that. So I said, why not try it? I tried it. I liked it. And I've been with Freeman ever since. She asked me a question. She said, why do kids get pulled in the streets? First of all, I'm gonna speak on my experience. A lot of kids get pulled in the streets because of not having your parents in the household, not having no guidance, and being addicted to drugs.
The lovely audience members gave questions. I figured this one, because Eddie has a 5-year-old.
Oh, okay, cool.
They say, what would you tell your 5-year-old? This is a good question. What would you tell a 5-year-old? Well, I got a son, he's 5 years old, so whoever picked this question, you hit it on the money. First, I'm gonna tell you why I had my son. I had my son for one reason. I had him to teach him the things my father never taught me. What you tell a 5-year-old, I mean, everybody know you give a 5-year-old candy and run and But the best thing you can tell them is, man, whatever you want to be, stay strong, and whatever you want to do, you can do it.
Okay, so I think I'll go to Anthony now. about, we'll switch around. So he shared his experience of not being able to read and write. Oftentimes on the unit, some of the most vocal and most expressive of our members can't read, and it's amazing to me. We had one of our book club members who I thought he was the top reader of the whole thing, but he would hear it. He was so good at hiding it, and would hear what the story was about, the characters, and then he would add on to it. And it just boggled my mind that they could get through school and not be able to read. So I want to ask Anthony to share his story about that. Oh, and he's going to read a poem that is hot off the press. He just wrote it in the car on the way up.
The name of this poem is I Crave. I crave. I crave more intelligence. I crave no normal ways of thinking. I sometimes crave the thoughts of Barack Obama. My strengths are not what I crave. I crave so much. It's like an addict that can't get his next fix. I can't understand why I crave so much, but I crave. I crave the balance of education for those who are less fortunate to those who are. I crave richness for the homeless. My craze is to one day play a major role in stopping war. I struggle to stop these cravings, but who the hell wouldn't want these cravings? Written by a person with a craving for a better earth. I crave. As Turd said, I'm like one of the oldest Free Minds members. She met me when I was 16 years old, I'm 28 years old now. At the time she met me, I couldn't read, I couldn't write, I couldn't spell. What you just heard me read, I couldn't write or read. My life story is, I got kicked out of all DC public schools in elementary school. That's why when I go to McKinley Tech and they trying to, what she said, we go to McKinley Tech is a middle school, and they want to expel these kids. It's important for me to go in there and try to mold these kids into good character before they gonna get kicked out of DC public schools or charter schools. Because what happened to me will be what they will go through. They'll say forget the books. They'll say they'll just run the streets. A big thing with me is when it comes to reading and writing, it empowered me. It made me a better person. It made me, who I am today. Like I'm standing right here talking to in front of all of y'all, which I would never have done 12 years ago. I went to prison at 16 years old for armed robbery and second-degree murder. As a kid, I came up in a household where both parents was addicted to crack, cocaine. My pop, both parents were addicted to crack cocaine. My mom was addicted to crack cocaine. And my pop was an alcoholic who abused me, physically. So in return, I never was able to trust men. So when they put me around a group of men at 16 years old, I act out. When she met me, I was aggressive. She told me once I came home, not while I was in prison, but once I came home, she said that the guards told her, don't come to my cell. He can't read, he can't write, he's not gonna wanna do anything. I learned fundamental, Free Minds helped me in a major way. From flashcards, cat, dog, pet. Like, right now I'm going to UDC. I'm in UDC. came a long way, and you know, I came a long way, and I think it's my job and my duty to push them young kids that we go down to New Beginnings, and we go to McKinley Tech. I think it's my duty to get back to where I come from. They coming from messed up environments where older guys like myself, they out there on the street pushing the young kids to do wrong. But if I can go into these schools and push them to do right, why not? That's all I
So I'll ask Gary, who's wonderful, Anthony's good friend. You guys met inside, right?
Yeah.
And then the big thing is when you leave the street life, right, you have to change your entire surroundings, your entire friends. And it's really lonely and it's really hard. And these guys have a brotherhood among themselves, and that's what we foster. That's what Sherman fosters, that you can rely on your own brotherhood instead of having to go your own family members, your own friends that really are not, don't have the best out for you. But Gary's life was looking completely rosy. He had amazing scholarships to college. He was a basketball star, a football star, and then it all turned around. So Gary, can you share with us what the impact of peer pressure was for you, and also your family background?
How y'all doing? My name is Gary Durant. I'm gonna read a poem first. This is a poem I wrote when I was 17 to my mother. It's called Mommy. Mommy, the most beautiful flower on God's green earth, yet at the same time the most wretched weed, loving yet neglecting all at the same time, trying to do everything right, yet doing more harm than good. As a child, I never really understood the fact that you were only human, and being human, you were entitled to make mistakes. Some days the hate outweighed the love, but there was always an emotion to thrive on. Strong for being able to raise a boy to a man, all on your own. Yet weak for falling victim to temptation. Children never understand such things right away. And when we do acquire the wisdom to figure it all out, it's too late to make peace. I understand now. It was your unconditional love for me that sometimes made you hate yourself for what you chose. I understand, and I love you. So, like Tyra said, I was 17 when I got incarcerated. And, I was playing football in high school. I had scholarships with like Virginia Tech, Ohio State, Morgan State, in basketball and football. You feel what I'm saying? So I never thought that this would ever happen, right? But I hang with a group of friends in the neighborhood, and the dude get killed. And they come get me. The only thing they said, oh, the dude, Gary, yeah, we play football for Scranton. So I got locked up. And when I got locked up, you know, when we live in the streets, it's a code, oh, you can't tell your friends and stuff like that. So I did 6.5 years in prison for not telling my friends. In that 6.5 years, I met Tyra when I was like 17. She came to my cell. Hey, girl, you want to read a book? I'm looking at her like, hell no, I ain't trying to read a book. She ain't give up, bro. She came to my cell for like 3 days straight. I'm like, listen, lady, if you just leave me alone, I will read a book and I write a poem. Come on. So that's how I met Tyra, right? But my life, I met my mother when I was 12 years old. My mother left me on the porch of my grandparents' house because she was addicted to drugs. My father, I don't know what my father was. He probably still out there just tripping. But I never met him either though. In prison, in school, I never had to go to class and stuff because I was good at sports. So all I had to do was sit in front of class and do nothing. So I couldn't really read that good. I could write a little bit, but I was just real good at sports, so I always got passed. So Tyra helped me learn how to read and write even better, you feel what I'm saying, to the point where I learned and took college courses while I was in prison. I also spent 2 years in solitude confinement. Anybody know what that is? Yeah, I'm stuck in a cell for 23 hours a day, and I only get to come out of the cell for 1 hour, and I get one 15-minute phone call a month. So I was stuck like that for 2 years. So all I had to do was read and write. And thanks to Free Minds, I read every Harry Potter book that came out. Man, that kept me entertained, for real, you understand? Now that I'm home, I like to say, I play semi-pro football, and in November I travel for the Harrisburg Stampede down here in Pennsylvania for the arena football team. So I'm still working on my goals and stuff like that. They gave me a question.
If anyone has any other questions, just raise your hand and Sean will get them.
What was the other question? One was the 5-year-old. Oh, we've lost the question.
Uh-oh, we lost the question.
Hold on, the question was like, if I could change.
If you could tell your old, there you go.
If you could give your old self advice, what would it be? If I could give my old self advice, it would be not to fall into the temptation and the peer pressure of my friends and stuff like that. Because where I went wrong at, for real, I was living a double life. Like, I would go to school every day, play sports, and then I would come home and hang with these group of guys who was driving fast cars, had all the nice watches, nice chains, and stuff like that. So I was like, I want that. They be like, you sure you want this? I'd be like, yeah, I want this. All right, well, don't go to school. No, I'm still gonna go to school, but I want this. Back, if I would have known what I know now, I'd have said, forget all that and just went to school and just stuck in it until the end, you feel what I'm saying?
Good answer. Charlie wants to be last. I'm going to do Keila. So you've heard these guys, Anthony, Gary, Eddie didn't have the role models at home. It was, education in the family. What was that? But Keila is an amazing mom, and Jermaine still ended up. So if Keila can share her story about that there's so many bigger factors that are involved, and we know, and we work with so many Free Minds moms that are desperate. And I remember the saddest time ever is when we always call a mom after we have a new member on the unit, and I said, your son's a member, we just want to let you know, we'll be in touch. And she said, thank God he's locked up because he's not dead. And I thought, how sad that we are at that point, but that's the only hope she had, was that her son could be locked up so he wouldn't be killed. So Keila can share a little viewpoint from her mom.
I'm going to read one of my son's poems that he wrote back in 2007 when he was locked up on the juvenile block. Actually, with Gary, they were same unit together. It goes, whether walking or driving or taking the train, this day-to-day sight is always the same. They beg or they fuss with their pup in the game outside of the train station waiting for change. Even in 90-degree weather or days full of rain, they'll stand on that sidewalk waiting for change. I once told a beggar, instead of complain, pick yourself up and get in the game. So it's time to be brave and look life in the eye, not wallow in sorrow and watch life pass you by. For a penny, a nickel, or waiting for dimes, there's so much more to life, we're wasting our time. There's so much to give and so much to gain. If we're not at the airport in time, we miss our plane. Our flight to new heights and a new life to claim, motivation to do is on you to attain. We can look through the window and see the past and the pain, but can't look at ourselves and see we have to change. You might say it's crazy, I think it's insane that we use everything except for our brain. Time to get off this road and make a new lane, not stay like a guy on the sidewalk waiting for change. Point that he wrote back in 2007. He was in the juvenile block. His story, our story begins with a phone call that I got at work telling me that my son had been arrested for armed robbery. And myself, as a mom, I kind of pride myself on really being the mom really involved in my kids' education and keeping them involved in extracurricular activities, monitoring their friends and things of that nature. So I was really shocked when I got the call, and even more shocked when I found that he was being charged as an adult, because I didn't even know anything like that existed. It was called Title 16 in DC. So that's where the journey began. When he got charged and sent over to DC jail, I was just blown away because this is not juvenile facilities, this is actual jail. And my first checkup on him, I realized that there wasn't a school there because he was still a student at the time, 10th grade. And I was blown away because I didn't understand how they didn't have a structured educational program, but he did tell me that there was a book club that came twice a week called Free Minds Book Club and Writing Workshop. And he had always been a kid who didn't mind reading. He wasn't a big poet, but I wasn't really concerned about him not wanting to read. But just to find out that Free Minds was there
it really gave me some comfort to know that he was being exposed to some education. When he finally got his sentence, he was sent 1,500 miles away because DC is not a state, you don't have a prison there. So when these young men, most of these young men, my son included, when they finally do get their charge, they get sent anywhere, everywhere, all across the country. So I had never met Free Minds, I just knew that he was a member. He was at the DC jail for 2 years before he got finally sent all the way out to Devil's Lake, North Dakota. And which really was a bummer for me and my family because we weren't able to go see him. So it was like trying to raise my kid from 1,500 miles away. It was a very anxiety-producing situation. One day I got a phone call from Free Minds Book Cover Writing Workshop. I was a little bit familiar with Free Minds. I was just so grateful for what they did, but I didn't know all that they did. They asked me if I would like to go visit my son. And they were going to pay for the hotel, they were going to pay for the plane ride, and I was just completely blown away. And so we take this trip one very, very snowy December back in 2009. We get on this plane and we go to Devil's Lake, North Dakota, myself, and I think it was like 5 other moms. Tara was there, it was my first time meeting Tara. And I was just so grateful to be able to lay eyes on my son after 2 years, and just so grateful that this organization was just so passionately dedicated to these kids. It's really touched my heart. And from then on, I kind of kept in touch with Tara off and on over the years. And my son came home, he made it back to the community. He got into community outreach, and he's doing just what you see these young men doing today, but unfortunately for him, he got pulled back up in the system. One thing about these young men, a lot of times when they get these charges at a young age, it's like a catalyst for future criminal behavior, unfortunately. So he was reincarcerated. And during his second stint, Free Minds was there to support him. So just so happened in 2012, skip forward to 2012, he was at a probation hearing, and Tara was there. And we chatted a little bit, and she said, there's a young lady, Juliana, she had been with the organization for years. She was leaving, and Tara asked me if I wanted to come and work. And at the time, I was working with special needs kids in the DC public school system. I had a job that I absolutely loved because I have a son with special needs as well, and it really was a job that I loved and I was dedicated to. So I told Tara, okay, Tara, school is out in June. I was always so grateful for everything that Free Minds did. I told Tara, I said, school is out in June. I could come work for the summer. School's not back until August, so I would love to come and work with you guys for the summer. And so June 2012, I got into the office and I started working, and I was just completely, I think the first day I was there, I read a letter from a young man who was writing from jail, expressing his gratitude for getting books, because he said, in the letter, he said, I'm in my cell, I'm reading books, and if I didn't have these books to read, I would be out in the compound getting into trouble. And I was like, wow. And I didn't know all the Free Minds did. And then another amazing experience I had, I don't know if Eddie remembers this, 2012, Eddie came in, he was just coming home from jail, and he needed to get his GED and get back in school. And I never had any hands-on experience with that, but I knew that, I wanted to help him. So together, we found the school in the area that would meet his needs, and it was just such a wonderful feeling to get him actually signed up and get him started in the classes. And I saw that I was really helping these young men, just like my son. I was really making a difference. And so August came, and Tara didn't want me to leave. And I was really torn because I really wanted to go back to the school system. I had a love for these children. I was in a classroom. It was myself and 2 other teachers, and the class was extremely high paced. You walk in the door at 8:45, you can't catch your breath until 3:15 till the kids are out the door. It was 3- and 4-year-old kids, and half the kids had special needs and half of them were regular ed. So it was a really, really, really tough decision, but I think the thing that really made me helped to make my decision is the school that I was teaching, that was a very small family-oriented school, and the parents were very hands-on. None of the kids were neglected. Most of the kids had 2-parent households, and so they had a lot of extra support. And then I looked at the young men that I was helping coming home from jail. Some of them had never even met their parents, and they didn't have a lot of parental support, they didn't have a lot of family support or community support, and I think that's the thing that helped make my decision, and I made a decision 2 weeks before school started. So needless to say, I feel like it's destiny that I'm here. My own son is still incarcerated, but it just feels good that I'm helping the young men that are out here stay successful in the community.
Okay, so last but not least is Charlie. Who before, as I said, the fact that he's here today just like makes my heart so happy talking to all of you. And because really, I think the only words I heard from Charlie, probably curse words for many, many months. What do you say, Charlie? Anyway, he is. But anyway, basically, Charlie, if you could tell them about your experience in prison. We heard about Gary with the solitary confinement, but if you could tell them about the racism and how all the different ethnic groups are divided in prison.
Huh? This thing, but there we go. I'm reading this poem, so love. Love, I think I know you, but I really don't. I want you to tell a girl about you, but I can't, so I won't. Love, I use your name so many times in vain. I told the girl I love them, but the whole time it was a game. Love, let's take a long walk or sit down and talk. Let me know how I can tell the real you and the fake hip-hop. Love, oh, love there. Love there's this girl that I'm, there's this girl that I am with that I don't even want you to part. Love, let me know how you make people feel act. So next time, your name, oh, next time, keep skipping around. So next time I use your name, it can be from the heart. I'm sorry, y'all. I got a little messed up right there. I like to go first. I feel as though like God knows me for real now. She told my whole life story. What else y'all need? I got a cat. Oh, got 2 cars. So everything. So let me stop playing. I got locked up at age 16 in 2007 for 7 murders. My first day over there, I met her. She came in my cell. I didn't like her. These are the first words. Every time you see her, she never changed. These are the first words she said. Oh my God, I'm so happy! I said, every day, I don't even know you happy. I'm so happy to be about it. She said, hey, I run this thing called the Females Book Club, and we write books. I said, oh, wait. I don't be doing that love stuff. I ain't in love. You talking about writing books, you read books. I'm facing 30 years, quit myself. I didn't go to her class for 8 months. Every time she came over, she came to myself. She never, that's one thing I say about her, she never gave up. I could cuss her out, call her all types of names. She still gonna come. Every time she comes, she would say, I'm so happy! After the day I know, I never seen her down before. If I see her down, I'm hurt tomorrow. If she come around me and say, oh my God, I'm so happy, she don't say that, somebody in trouble. You have some problems. But I finally went to a class and I actually liked it. And the reason I went to her class, we were on lockdown one time, and I done read all the newspapers, all my old letters. I'm tired of staring at my pictures. So she popped up, and guess what? I was so happy. When she popped up, look, I was screaming at the top of my lungs. We came over there, she said, what's going on? I said, you got a crossword puzzle book? She said, yeah, I got one. I said, can I get it? She said, you gonna come right back? I said, yeah, I'm coming. And she gave me the book, I won't believe it. 20 minutes later, we came out our shit. That's how mad I was. Ain't playing, they right on this little stuff. He ain't trying to do none of that. But I actually went in there and they was, I forgot what I always say Dutch, but it was, she said it was dark, whatever the name of it is. But I felt out of place, everybody was talking about the book, what was going on, and they're like, man, I don't know what's going on with this book. And she's like, okay, we're gonna write some poems. She tried to get me to write a poem. I said, oh, I came to the class, I said, I'm gonna write now. So 2 days later, she came over there again. Guess what? I wrote my first poem. So you can write a poem about anything.
What was your poem?
It was about a crown Vic. First copy. I forgot how it goes. I get the copy of it. I'm just waiting next little thing to do. I turned 18 and I went over the dog block. And I got to chill with my man again for a little while. So I left him. And I went out to Phoenix, the racist place in the world. Man, I've been on a 2-week bus ride. I was so hungry. When I got out there, I sat at the wrong table. These people looking at me like I was crazy. I was so hungry, I ain't paying attention to them. Dude came and told me, he said, oh, you can't sit right there. I still wasn't paying attention to him. Like, all right, I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna talk some other stuff. So I'm gonna sit down and eat. So the dude was talking to me. The whole time he's talking to me, I'm not even paying attention to him. I'm like, man, I'm not here. I wish you shut up. So we get down to the room, and people come up to me, they get me soaked, and all that type of stuff, get the shower. So one of them gave me a towel that. Oh, the towel, I losing money. I said, oh, I don't need this Detroit. I only got 6 years. I can get all this time. I don't be trash.
I just want to make sure it's enough. You got enough.
Oh, y'all got a 5 day machine. We got a 5 minute. But I had to like the trash can. So I sat right there. And I looked up, I said, the dude running down the chair. I said, man, in this jam? They ain't playing like this. I looked behind him. I seen 2 dudes with 2 big old knives standing. I said, oh no, I need to go get that. I put that back up. I said, we need this. Man, I never been in a racist place when I worked in my life. Spanish sit together, whites sit together, blacks sit together, blacks live with each other, Spanish live with each other, whites live with each other. Race riots kick off. So all types of stuff. I said, man, I'm never getting off this. The dude asked me one time, he asked me, this dude asked me right before I was going, he said, what you want to do when you go home? I said, you know, man, you try to find a job, that's all I got to say. He said, man, if you don't plan, you plan to fail. So when I got home, that stuff slipped in my mind. I went straight back to the streets. I was sitting out there one day with one of my friends. I looked around, it was 3 o'clock right now, I looked around. I said, no, high school kids standing around us with tan pants on and button-up shirts, uniforms. I said, oh, we ain't doing this. I can't be doing this. She was trying to know the whole time I've been locked up. So I would call her, and I called her. She said, I'm so happy. I said, you called the officer tomorrow. And when I went up there, we was going to this high school called the Loop. We got up there and I said, I was showing them something to the kids and they was listening. I said, oh, this is what I want to do right here. This is all right. I've been doing it very since. Now I go to a school, I talk to kids, McKinley. We go to McKinley, I talk to kids, Los Angeles school. Still being on the streets. It's education. Education take it a long way. I go to a place called New Beginnings that's youth. It's locked up. I talk to them about urban education, staying on struggling, that's it, She told me I got a girlfriend, they got a dog, cat, goldfish. Got 2 cars. So, Stephanie got in the house? That's it.
So I know we're running a little bit of time. We want to.
We got one more thing. If somebody can bring me a cup of water from up there, you gotta pass some light.
So we want to get to the point of the poetry feedback, but if anyone has any questions and didn't write it on the thing, or you want to be brave and raise your hand, these guys will answer anything. Trust me, Joe.
Can you just explain the Title 16 a little bit more, how the juveniles get tried as adults and how that happens?
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys are familiar, each state is different. I don't know the Pennsylvania rules. There's one documentary you guys have to watch called Kids for Cash. I don't know if you're familiar with it, and right here in Wilkes-Barre. So that's the juvenile system, obviously. But the adult system in DC, it's at a certain age, usually 15, 16, certain crime with a gun, they're immediately in the adult system. So the juvenile system, it presupposes that you need rehabilitation, special education needs, mental health counseling, and the adult system, for what I have seen, is pretty much just punitive punishment. So it's just, that's the code of the law, it's just called Title 16.
Is each man coming from a different institution?
Yeah, we were on our way up, and I said, I want to go visit the coal mine. I was telling them about Scranton. They're like, I think we went to Hershey Park. Remember? But anyway, so they were talking about, we don't need to see coal mine because I was at Big Sandy, Kentucky, which has a lot of coal already. But basically the federal, so they go to federal institutions. Right now we have kids in 47 prisons in 23 states. So I don't know if you guys want to share all your institutions where you're from. Oh, you just did the jail.
I was just in Ohio, McConnellsville, Ohio.
Yeah.
I was just in the DC jail.
Oh, and you went to the
And I went to Pennsylvania, South Carolina. Yeah, we needed that. I appreciate it.
Charlie, where were you?
Thank you. Thank you. Say that right there. I was in New Jersey, Francis, New Jersey.
I was in 3 different institutions. I was in Big Sandy, Kentucky. I was in Asheville, South Carolina, and I was in Scranton, New Jersey.
I was in Big Sandy, Kentucky, Louisiana, and California.
So now, So now, if you guys see the poems on your desk, these are basically the new poems from our members that are still writing them. So we would love, if you have time, I know we're running a little late, if you could write feedback on them, and I'm going to now pass it over to our amazing program director. Sean is going to tell you how to do it. There's an orange, oh, you want to say something? Oh, right. Oh, we have a special, before we do that, Sean, sorry, we have a special presentation Anthony wants to give to Mary. Before Mary, come on down. Come on down. As I say, Mary is an amazing Free Minds friend, and she's on our advisory board. She has a million ideas. She got us here. I feel like she's launched us to a whole new national level. And Anthony's here. Just go out front, go front there. Anthony just has a little special something.
This award is Free Minds. Well, appreciation for Ms. Mary here. It's say Free Minds Book Club and Writing Workshop, certificate of appreciation for her dedication, service, and passionate belief in the power of books and writing to transform the lives of DC incarcerated youth, which is what you see up here.
And then I didn't forget our wonderful volunteer over there. If you do you mind just taking us out with the poem Free Minds? You still have your book. It's on page, this is, kind of sums us up. Actually, can you guys help me find Free Minds page? I think it's on the last. And then, so we have these Write Nights every month, and volunteers come and write feedback, and it's pretty powerful because it's the connection with the community. That's the most important thing. They don't feel so isolated. As you guys probably know, over 30% of adults in the U.S. are incarcerated. It's an epidemic of mass incarceration, and the only way we're going to try to change this is that we have more community building, more awareness of the root causes, and that's what we're all about. What are the root causes of incarceration, and what can we do for all of the people coming home? How can we embrace them and give them real jobs and real opportunities? So it's called Free Minds, page 72.
I have a quick question.
Oh, yeah.
Is Free Minds interracial?
Yeah.
You know, I see just African American.
Okay, so on the unit, I would say 98% African American and 2% Latino. I've been at the jail 12 years. I have never seen one white person. Have you seen a white inmate at the jail? I have never. Now, DC is an odd geographic place.
No, just Hispanic. Now, we have 4
Latino.
Hispanic kids now in the unit. I go twice a week now. The most we've ever had, but like Tara said, it's
Like 2%. I think
Why is that?
well, there's a million root causes, but I would have to say the makeup of DC is, I mean, we know more white people do drugs and do, but more people of color are arrested, of course. Disproportionate minority contact with the law. I mean, we could go very, very long into it. That's what's so tragic about DC. The wealth gap is one of the largest in the world because, of course, it's they say superpower of the world's biggest democracy. And as we know, right over across the river is the poorest, most illiterate, most under-resourced communities in the country. And I think, we talk about this all the time. What it is, I think people's eyes, their view on national and international, and they don't look in their own backyard. That's what we're trying to. Yeah. You guys are all Free Minds now. So we have our final Free Minds, page 72. What's your name?
Kayla?
Oh, Kayla. Thank you so much. You can stand up and bring us out with that.
Free Minds. Chapter Free Mind is a challenge all constraints. You have no complaints. You hold the key to your own freedom. There is no lock you cannot pick. There is no situation you cannot switch. There is no burden you cannot lift. Because your mind is meant to be opened like a given gift.
I just wanted to explain a little bit about the poems in front of you, and there's more poems up on the table here. This is sort of a mini version of what we call Write Night, which is something we do once a month.